Have you ever done something so small, so ordinary, that you thought it meant nothing at all, only to later find out it changed the entire course of someone's life? This is one of those stories. And it begins on an ordinary rainy afternoon inside a crowded supermarket. Martha, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes but a heavy heart, was just trying to pick up a few things before the storm got worse. She wasn't in the best mood. Her thoughts had been drifting all day to her son, Daniel, who had been through far too much already. She was standing in the checkout line when she noticed a woman ahead of her, a young black mother, maybe in her early 30s, clutching a little boy's hand tightly. The boy looked no older than 6, his shoes worn out, his clothes too small. But it wasn't just their appearance that caught Martha's eye. It was the mother's trembling hands. She kept swiping her debit card again and again, and each time the machine beeped, declined. The cashier sighed impatiently. The line grew longer, and people behind began to murmur. The mother's face burned with shame as she whispered to the cashier, "Can I just take the bread and milk, please? My son needs to eat." But the card still wouldn't go through. Now, most people would have looked away, pretended not to notice. But Martha felt something stir deep inside her. Without even thinking, she stepped forward, pulled out her own card, and said, "I'll take care of it. Put it all on mine." The young mother turned, her eyes wide and wet with tears. "Ma'am, you don't have to." But Martha insisted. "I want to. Please." The groceries weren't much, maybe $40. But to the young mom, it was everything. She tried to thank Martha, but her voice broke. She just hugged her son closer and whispered, "God bless you." Martha left the store feeling strangely emotional. She had done what anyone with a kind heart would do, but there was something in the woman's eyes, something haunting, that stuck with her. That night, Martha sat at her kitchen table, staring at an old framed photo. It was of her son Daniel, taken years ago. He had nearly died when he was a child. Memories came flooding back, the hospital lights, the machines, the desperate prayers. A stranger had once stepped in and changed everything. But Martha had never gotten a chance to thank them. Now, looking back on the young mother at the store, she couldn't shake the feeling that fate had just intervened. But she had no idea just how right she was. Martha went about her week, not expecting to see the woman again. But fate had a different plan. On Sunday, she was walking into her local church when she spotted the same young mother, sitting quietly in the back pew with her son. Their heads were bowed, as if in silent prayer. Martha hesitated. Should she approach? Would it be awkward? But before she could decide, the little boy looked up, and their eyes met. Something about that boy's face made Martha's heart pound. His features, his smile, there was something strangely familiar. She leaned against the pew, feeling faint. It couldn't be, could it? After the service, Martha gathered her courage and introduced herself. The young mother smiled politely, remembering her from the grocery store. "My name's Angela," she said softly, "and this is my son, Jamal." Jamal reached out his small hand to shake Martha's, his wide eyes full of innocence. And the moment Martha touched his hand, a memory came rushing back, one she had buried deep for years. She remembered Daniel's accident, the chaos, the screams, the desperate rush to the hospital. And she remembered a face, someone who had stepped in, someone who had acted when no one else did. Her breath caught. It was Angela. The very woman she had just helped was the one who had saved her son's life years ago. Daniel had been only 7 when it happened. He had been playing in the street when a car came speeding around the corner. Martha had screamed, frozen in terror. But before she could move, a young teenage girl had dashed forward and shoved Daniel out of the way. That girl had been injured in the process. But she disappeared before Martha could properly thank her. All Martha had ever remembered was the courage in those young eyes. And now, here she was, Angela. But Angela didn't seem to recognize her. Should she say something? Should she reveal who she was? Her heart raced as she stared at Angela, who was busy tying Jamal's shoelace. This woman was struggling to put food on the table. Yet years ago, she had risked her own life for a stranger's child. Why hadn't she said anything? Why hadn't she told her? Before Martha could speak, Angela's phone buzzed. She answered quickly, her face tightening with worry. Yes, sir. I promise I'll get the rent. Please, just give me more time. Her voice cracked. She ended the call and pulled Jamal close. Martha's heart broke. She owed this woman everything. But Angela didn't even know it. That night, Martha told Daniel what had happened. She expected him to be shocked, but instead his face grew pale. Mom, you don't understand, Daniel whispered. Angela didn't just save me that day. There's something else you don't know, something about what happened after. Martha froze. What do you mean? Daniel swallowed hard. His eyes filled with something she had never seen before, guilt. She saved me. But because of that, her life was never the same. I think I'm the reason she lost everything. Martha's blood ran cold. What could he mean? How could saving her son have ruined Angela's life? Daniel's words hung in the air like thunder that refused to fade. Martha stared at her son in disbelief, her hands trembling around her teacup. What do you mean you're the reason Angela lost everything? Daniel lowered his gaze, his voice quiet but heavy with guilt. Mom, it wasn't just that she saved me from the car. Something happened after something I never told you. Martha leaned forward, her heart pounding. Daniel, please, tell me. He hesitated, then finally spoke. After she pushed me out of the way, she didn't just get hurt, she was seriously injured. She broke her leg. And her family, they blamed her for it. They said she was reckless, that she shouldn't have been in the street. I heard things later at school. People said her mom couldn't afford the hospital bills. Angela had to drop out of so many things because of me. Sports, scholarships, even college later on. Her whole future was ruined because she saved my life. Martha gasped, tears filling her eyes. And you knew? All these years. Daniel nodded, shame written across his face. I was too young to understand back then. But later, when I found out, I was too scared to tell you. Too ashamed. I thought maybe Angela would rebuild her life. But seeing her now with nothing, I know she never did. Martha clutched her chest, her heart aching. Angela hadn't just saved her son. She had sacrificed her own future in the process. And now here she was struggling to feed her child. That night, Martha couldn't sleep. She kept seeing Angela's face at the grocery store, the desperation in her voice on the phone, the innocence in Jamal's eyes. No, this wasn't just fate. This was unfinished business. Martha decided right then she would find a way to repay Angela, to give her back the life she had lost. But what Martha didn't realize was that Angela carried her own secrets. Secrets far darker than she could have imagined. The next Sunday, Martha waited outside the church until Angela emerged. She approached carefully, not wanting to frighten her. Angela, she said softly, would you and Jamal like to come over for dinner this week? Angela's eyes widened. Oh, I don't want to impose. You wouldn't be. Please, I'd love to have you. Angela hesitated, then nodded slowly. All right, thank you. It means a lot. When Angela and Jamal arrived at Martha's home, Daniel was already waiting. The moment he saw Angela, his throat tightened. He hadn't seen her face to face in years, not since the accident. But Angela didn't seem to recognize him. To her, he was just Martha's grown son. Dinner was warm at first, filled with laughter from Jamal as he played with the family's old dog. Martha felt her heart glow. Maybe, just maybe, this was the start of something beautiful. But as the meal went on, Martha couldn't shake the weight in the room. Daniel barely spoke. Angela seemed guarded, her eyes darting toward the window every so often, as if expecting someone or something. Finally, Martha couldn't hold it in any longer. Angela, she said carefully, I need to tell you something. Something from years ago. Angela froze, her fork halfway to her mouth. You saved my son's life when he was a boy. Do you remember? The accident of the car. Angela's hand trembled. The fork clattered onto her plate. She stared at Martha, then at Daniel. Silence filled the room. For a long moment, Angela said nothing. Then, in a low voice, she whispered, I never thought you'd remember me. Martha reached across the table, her eyes brimming with tears. How could I forget? You gave me my son. I never even got to thank you. But Daniel, he told me what happened after. The sacrifices you made. The pain you carried. Angela's face hardened. She looked straight at Daniel. You knew. Daniel nodded, guilt written all over him. I did, and I'm so sorry. You didn't deserve what happened to you. Angela's eyes filled with tears, but not the tears of relief Martha expected. Instead, there were tears of anger, bitterness, and something else. Fear. You don't understand, Angela whispered, her voice shaking. Saving Daniel didn't just ruin my future. It put me in debt to someone dangerous. Martha frowned. Debt? What do you mean? Angela lowered her gaze. The hospital bills. My mom couldn't afford them. We borrowed money from a man we shouldn't have. And when we couldn't pay him back, everything fell apart. Daniel leaned forward. Angela, are you saying... Yes. Angela cut in sharply. That man is still looking for me. He never stopped. That's why I keep moving. Why I never get too close to anyone. Before Martha could respond, a loud, heavy knock echoed through the house. Everyone froze. Angela's face went pale. She grabbed Jamal's hand and whispered urgently, Don't open it. Please, don't open the door. Martha's stomach dropped. Angela, who is it? But Angela didn't answer. She pulled Jamal close, her body trembling. Another knock, louder this time. And then a voice. Angela, we know you're in there. It's time to pay what you owe. Martha's blood ran cold. She looked at her son. Daniel's fist clenched, his jaw tight. And Angela? She held Jamal tighter than ever, her eyes wide with terror. Martha stood, her legs shaking, and whispered, Angela, who are these people? What did you get into? Angela turned to her, tears streaking her face. They're not just loan sharks, Martha. They're connected to something much worse. And if they find me, they won't just hurt me. They'll hurt Jamal, too. The knocking turned into pounding. The front door rattled against its hinges. Daniel stood up, his face pale but determined. Mom, Angela's not telling you everything. I know who those men are. And if they're here, then all of our lives are in danger. Martha's breath caught. Daniel, how do you know them? Daniel's eyes darkened. He took a deep breath and said words that made Martha's entire world tilt upside down. Because years ago, I worked for them. The pounding on the door grew louder. Each thud rattled the walls. Each echo cut through the silence like a knife. Angela clutched Jamal against her chest, her breathing shallow. Martha stood frozen, her heart thundering in her ears. And Daniel's confession still hung in the air like smoke. You worked for them? Martha whispered, her voice breaking. Daniel's eyes were heavy with shame. He didn't deny it. Yes, when I was younger, desperate for money, I made some choices I shouldn't have. Those men, if it's who I think it is, they're not just thugs. They're dangerous, ruthless. And if they found Angela, then things are worse than I thought. The pounding came again, this time followed by a chilling voice. Angela, open the door or we'll open it for you. Angela's hands shook as she turned to Martha. I tried to keep Jamal away from this life. I swore I'd protect him. But no matter where I go, they always find me. And now, I've dragged you both into it. Martha placed a hand on her shoulder. No, Angela. You saved my son's life once. We're not letting you fight this alone. Daniel stepped forward, his jaw set. Mom, you don't understand. These men, I owe them too. If they see me here, they'll know I never really got away. And they'll never stop until they collect one way or another. The room went silent, except for the relentless pounding. Angela's eyes locked onto Daniel's. Then there's only one thing to do. We have to run. Before anyone could move, the front door burst open. Wood splintered, the lock snapped, and two men in dark coats stormed inside. Their faces were hard, their eyes colder than ice. One of them sneered when he saw Angela. Thought you could hide forever, huh? Angela stepped in front of Jamal, her body trembling but fierce. Leave us alone. I don't have your money. The second man smirked. Oh, we're past money now. You've been dodging us for too long. The boss wanted to make an example. Martha gasped, but before she could react, Daniel stepped forward. Stop. This isn't her fault. It's mine. The men paused, recognition flashing in their eyes. Well, one of them sneered. Look who it is. The runaway. Didn't think we'd ever see your face again, Danny boy. Martha's knees nearly buckled. Runaway? What are they talking about? Daniel swallowed hard, shame burning in his eyes. Mom, after Angela saved me, after all the guilt I carried, I thought I could fix things by making money. I was young, stupid. I worked for these people. I delivered packages, ran errands. But when I tried to leave, they told me nobody ever leaves. So I disappeared, changed my name, started over. He turned to Angela, his voice breaking. And all this time, I thought it was my secret. But you got caught in the crossfire. Because of me, they never let you go. Angela's face twisted in shock and rage. You mean to tell me, all these years, all this suffering was because of you? Daniel flinched. I never meant. Save it. Angela spat, her voice trembling with fury. You ruined my life twice. Once when I saved you, and again when your past dragged me down with you. The men laughed cruelly. Touching reunion. But enough talking. You both owe us, and tonight, someone's paying. One of them pulled a gun. Martha screamed. Please, don't hurt them, she begged. Angela pulled Jamal behind her, tears streaming down her face. Daniel stepped in front of everyone, his eyes locked on the gunman. If you want someone, take me. Leave them out of it. The men exchanged a look. Tempting. But the boss, he wants a girl who ran. He wants Angela. Angela's breath hitched. She tightened her grip on Jamal. And that's when Martha did something no one expected. She stepped between Angela and the gunman, her voice steady despite the fear in her chest. Then you'll have to go through me first. The men hesitated. This wasn't what they'd come for. One of them raised his gun higher, finger on the trigger. Daniel's mind raced. He had one chance to fix everything. Suddenly, Daniel pulled something from his jacket. A badge. Everyone froze. Martha's eyes widened. Daniel, what is that? The gunmen's faces drained of color, because in Daniel's hand wasn't just any badge. It was an FBI badge. I wasn't just hiding from them, Mom, Daniel said, his voice steady now. I was undercover. I joined them years ago to expose this operation. I left because they were getting suspicious. But I never stopped working the case. Angela's mouth fell open. You're FBI? Daniel nodded. And tonight it ends. He pulled his gun, aiming it directly at the men. Drop your weapons. Now. But the men didn't drop their guns. Instead, they lunged. The room erupted in chaos. Shouts, a gunshot, furniture crashing. Martha screamed as Jamal hid under the table. Angela threw herself over him. When the smoke cleared, one man was on the ground, handcuffed. The other had fled into the night. Daniel stood, chest heaving, his badge shining in the lamplight. But before anyone could catch their breath, Angela turned to him, her eyes blazing. You lied to me, she said, her voice trembling with fury and betrayal. All this time, you let me believe I was suffering because of my choices, when really I was suffering because of yours. Daniel tried to speak, but Angela shook her head. I don't care if you're FBI. You ruined my life, and nothing can fix that. She grabbed Jamal's hand and stormed out of the house, leaving Martha and Daniel standing in stunned silence. Martha collapsed into a chair, her face pale. Daniel, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell her? Daniel sank beside her, his voice hollow. Because, Mom, the truth is worse than you know. Martha's heart skipped. What do you mean? Daniel's eyes filled with regret. He looked toward the door where Angela had just left. The accident that day, the car that almost hit me, wasn't random. It was them. They were coming for me. I was already mixed up with them even as a kid. And Angela, she wasn't just a hero who saved my life. She was a target too. She's been paying for my sins ever since. Martha's breath caught in her throat. The room spun. The story she thought she knew, the debt she thought she owed, wasn't the truth at all. Angela hadn't just saved her son's life. She had been dragged into his curse. And now she was gone.